Hi guys, Hulwen'sVids here. Today we're doing something a little bit different. Sorry I haven't posted in a while. It's been a rough month. I've been really busy with a lot of things, and I actually have a book that I've been working on. Not sure when I'll be publishing it, but I'm close. We finished editing. But anyways, today we will be making a plushie. We will not be making a Wingfeather saga plushie today. We'll be making this enemy from Tears of the Kingdom. I will be making some Wingfeather saga themed plushies in the future, but for today, we will be starting with something a little bit easier. Sorry, again, with the lack of Wingfeather saga stuff. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and here we go. So the first thing, obviously, that we would do for making a plushie is make the pattern. Now, this pattern is really simple. It really just comprises of a main body pattern, all the patterns for the fins, the individual fins, maybe one little piece for the head, for the top. But the head I decided to make one piece so that it's a little bit easier to sew. But anyways, I'll get to that later. But let's get started by sewing the body or cutting out the pieces. So if you want to make your own plushie of this, whether it's just a regular shark with this similar pattern or this exact one, then I think you could probably just take a screenshot. I don't know how to link photos in the description, so when I figure out how to do that, I'll be doing that. But if you want, you can pause the video, take a screenshot, and just make your pattern like that. The head pattern is kind of weird, but it should be pretty easy. Just kind of trace over the main head shape and then kind of duplicate it and tape it along the snout so that it like folds over when you sew it. But here you can see I am starting the, what are they called? Appliques. I'm kind of new to embroidery. So if none of the embroidery in this video makes any sense, it's because I'm still trying to figure out how to do it. There's a lot of video that I cut. You can see my camera violently shaking right there. But if you want to learn how to embroider, I would suggest looking up different YouTube channel for embroidery, because this was really difficult. It took like about several tries to get it to look nice. But there's the first fin. So basically you want to do that with both sides. If you want to just paint the fabric, you can. I actually tried to embroider like the gills and like the purple markings that you see on Muktarok, but I don't know why I didn't say the name of this enemy earlier in the video. But the name of this enemy is Muktarok if you haven't played Tears of the Kingdom. It's kind of a lame enemy, a really annoying enemy. But I decided to make this plushie for a YouTube that I enjoy watching. And honestly, it was a lot more entertaining making this plushie than I thought it would be. I thought it'd be like one of those like either really hard plushies or just ones that I would just stop making in the middle of it just because I'm bored of it. But this was actually weirdly fun. It was also challenging because, as you can see here, I tried embroidering like the gills and the purple like markings on its belly, but that did not work very well. So I had to spend like an hour or two cutting the markings out on the gills. Thankfully, I didn't have to redo the tail. But I kind of just completely scrapped the embroidery. Why? The reason why, spoiler alert, it's when you embroider without an underlying fabric as like kind of your base for your embroidery, it kind of cinches the fabric up and shortens the pattern to a point where you can't even sew it together without it like kind of just ruining the fabric, and it really just cinches it up and looks kind of ugly. So I removed all of the embroidery on that, But after that debacle, I finished the embroidery on all of the fins. There was like several pieces for the fins. It was really annoying. But once you kind of get the hang of embroidery, especially like on a sewing machine that's not supposed to be doing embroidery, like my sewing machine, as you can see here with the camera, the way this camera is shaking, my sewing machine hates doing embroidery. Like, I don't know why I force it to do this. Maybe the main reason is just because I don't have the money to buy an embroidery machine, because those things are expensive. But anyways, here's the body with the painted gills. I basically just used some metallic, like purple paint for the gills and the like underbelly markings. But I did this with all of the fins, and because this is like a shark, this isn't like a dolphin where it has like, what is it, like 3 fins, 1 on the back and then 2 on the side, and then like just its tail fin. Because this is a shark, it has 2 like arm fins, and then 2 basically like where the like on like a turtle, like the leg fins, and then it has 1 fin on the back and then 1 fin near the base of the tail. And I basically have to trace out 2 pieces per fin, and that got really tiring after a while, really frustrating. But this is the head piece. You can see kind of how weird this piece is. For the head pattern, you can basically just trace out the base of the head shape, like just the basic head shape. And then just kind of flip it, like if you have a program like Procreate, you can basically just duplicate the layers, flip it horizontally, and then just attach the snout. Or if you want to do this just like without a program, you can just trace it out twice and then tape it together. But I don't have the video for that because my phone decided to stop recording. So here's an illustration of what it looks like. Right next to me doing even more embroidery because this thing has so many little tiny fins. But yeah, I basically just embroidered that. Here's me sewing the rest of the body. It's kind of hard to see what I'm doing, but I'm basically just sewing along the spine of Muktarok's pattern. You can't really see it, but there are both of the fins that are on the spine, I kind of sandwiched in between, like in between the 2 main patterns. I cannot speak today. In between the 2 patterns, and then kind of clipped them with some sewing clips, and then sewed along the like kind of spine pattern here. You can kind of see a little bit better. There's my arm. My arm is in the way. But basically I just sewed along the back. I kind of sewed the wrong fin on the back, so I had to go back and just remove the fin and then sew it back on again. Anyways, here's the head pattern. I'm really happy with how it turned out. You can kind of see a little sneak peek of what it looks like. That's like the inside of it. But for making the head, basically you pin like the seam around like the chin, and you just sew that, but you basically have this rounded triangle shape for the top of the head. I kind of ended up making it a little too thin. I should have left the seam allowance on it because it kind of didn't fit the body. So on the finished plush, the head is a little bit narrower than it should be. But that was my fault. I cut off the seam allowance when I probably shouldn't have. But the head pattern's pretty simple. Basically, you just sew along the base line on the chin and then along the top. Obviously, the embroidery for the eyes and the mouth are going to be difficult, but if you paint it, like if you have acrylic paint, you can pretty much just paint it. It'll be probably just as uncomfortable as like a plushie with embroidery, but it'll work. Not with a lot of my plushies. A lot of my plushies have like hand-painted eyes, which I'll put a picture like right here in the corner of what it looks like. I have a couple of them that I'm still working on. Also, we may or may not be moving as of this recording, so I might not even be able to load anything for the next couple of weeks. But yeah, for the head, there's a little bit of a weird kind of raised area around like kind of like where the cheeks are. So I basically just added an extra little round piece to where like the gill line kind of is. It's kind of hard to see, but you basically just right where the round part of the mouth is, you just sew a little like half circle for each cheek, and then you just inside out that, and then sew that to the body and stuff it. It's supposed to give kind of like a raised look to it, but it didn't really work out as much as I hoped it would, but I just need some more practice. For the belly, I basically just finished sewing the fins, like the main like pectoral fins, and then the like rear like back fins. I basically sewed all 4 fins to the belly piece, which I didn't even show here, but it's basically an elongated version of the top headpiece. Like, so basically just a rounded triangle. Basically starts from like the base of the tail all the way up to the neck. So because I didn't have that pattern, you could probably just make one. It's an easy thing. Just make sure you put a lot of seam allowance for that. But here is the finished pattern. I had to slow it down because I didn't have a lot of footage. Right here I'm sewing up some of the holes that were left over from the embroidery removal. So just make sure that when you embroider, you kind of know what you're doing, or you're gonna end up kind of having to remove it, and then there will be little holes everywhere, which is an easy fix. They're just little holes that you can kind of cover up with like paint, like kind of what I did here. You can barely see that there was embroidery there. But now it's time to stuff it. The whole thing is almost done. Oh yeah, I forgot. The vein for the tail, like for the tail fin, like the main tail fin at the back, basically you continue the point of the body, like basically from like the back fins, and you go all the way, kind of sew all the way to the tip of the tail to kind of get that raised, narrow tail tip, so then it actually looks a little bit more realistic. But for stuffing, make sure that you stuff it evenly, or it will be kind of lumpy and kind of weird. But if you have like a weird kind of pattern, thankfully this pattern was easy enough to stuff, but certain patterns you have to stuff a lot. Like my Zora patterns take forever to stuff, and they take a lot of stuffing because their head shape is a little funky. So to make sure that their head shape stays that shape, you kind of have to overstuff it a little bit, and then they end up a little bit, but there's the body all done. I'm really happy with how it turned out. But if you want to make one of these by yourself, then just remember, it's as much as this is a simple pattern, you at least need some knowledge in sewing. Like here for the sewing on the head, I use what's called a ladder stitch to sew on the head. But if you want to make plushies, I would recommend looking up videos that are not mine. I'm still trying to learn how to record, but there it is. It's all done. As you can see, the head's kind of too narrow. But there it is. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and see you later.